For a final example, we'll work on the macro for a matrix. Click View, click Macros, click Record Macro, and in this dialog box, we first name the macro matrix. Again, it says here that the macro will be saved in normal.dotm. That's the normal template. And what did we say about normal.dotm or the normal template? Do not mess with the normal template. So we select template 1. Click keyboard, and we get the dialog box for the shortcut keys. It says here one more time that the macro will be saved in normal.dotm. Now we don't want that, of course. Again, we do not want to mess with the normal template. So we choose template 1. Now we select the shortcut keys. Let's try Ctrl-Shift-M. It says here that these keys are currently assigned to unindent. Now it could be different for you, but for us, we hardly use unindent, and so we will override unindent and assign Ctrl-Shift-M to the matrix macro. Click Assign, click Close. So the recording of the macro has started. We call up the field code brackets by pressing Ctrl F9, type EQ space backslash B for bracket backslash BC since we want the matrix enclosed on both sides by brackets, or parentheses, or braces, or any character that we choose. Type backslash and then a square bracket, which is what we're going to use to enclose our matrix. Type a pair of parentheses to enclose the entries of the matrix. Then remove this annoying space between the closing parenthesis and the closing field code bracket. Bring the cursor inside the parentheses. Now we have to use a second field code, and that is for an array. We call up the field code brackets inside the pair of parentheses, type EQ, space, backslash, and then A for array. Type backslash. Now we will also incorporate some typesetting options here to put a little sparkle in our matrix, so to speak. The first typesetting option is for centering the entries of each column. So we type AC, which probably means a line along the center. We type backslash, and the second typesetting option is for creating a gap or space between the columns of the matrix. So we create horizontal spacing by typing HS. Then let's try 5 points for the spacing between columns. So we type 5. We type backslash again to get ready for the next typesetting option, which is for vertical spacing, or the spacing between the rows. So we type VS. Let's try a vertical spacing of 2 points. So we type 2. We now type a pair of parentheses for the entries. Again, remove this annoying space between the closing parenthesis and the closing field code bracket. We bring the cursor after VS2 and just before the opening parenthesis. You might ask, well, what about the number of columns or rows? Do you think we should specify the number of columns or rows now? What do you think? Okay, not this time, because we don't want to be locked onto a specific set of dimensions for all matrices that we might create in the future. So we'll leave this option for the dimensions open and specify the dimensions only when we are creating an actual matrix. We will demonstrate this in the field test of our matrix macro. We click on macros and stop the recording. Now time for the field test. We press our shortcut keys for the matrix macro. Remember, it's Ctrl-Shift-M. We get our matrix field code, The cursor is between the vertical spacing VS2 and the opening parenthesis. It is at this time that we specify the number of columns. If we do specify the number of columns, MS Word will automatically determine the number of rows. That is, if we do not specify the number of columns, we will get a column matrix. So if we just enter the matrix entries, such as A, B, C, D, E, F, between the parentheses, and cut, and then paste, we get a column matrix. Let us start over with a matrix with the same entries but with 3 columns. Press our shortcut keys. To specify the number of columns, we type backslash after VS2, and then we type CO for columns, and then the number of columns, which we choose to be 3. Bring the cursor inside the parentheses and type the entries A, B, C, D, E, F. Cut, and then paste, and we get a matrix with 3 columns. And of course, it has 2 rows.